Hello, this is Amanda Cleland, and today in marketing, we are continuing with chapter 10, part 2. So, we are talking about marketing channels in chapter 10. And where we left off, we were started talking about the three major types of vertical marketing systems, VMS. And each different type of vertical marketing system uses a different means for setting up leadership and for setting up power within that marketing channel. So we could have corporate marketing system, we could have an administered system, or we could have a contractual system. So let's go through what each of these actually mean. So a corporate vertical marketing system. This integrates successive stages of production and distribution under single ownership. Channel leadership is established through common ownership. One entity owns everything. There is only one entity that owns everything. So this is where one single corporation owns everything. So this is a pretty easy one. Corporate VMS under single ownership. The corporation owns it all. So grocery giant Kroger, they own and they operate 38 different food product plants. They have 17 dairies. They have 7 bakery plants, 5 grocery plants, a deli plant, 2 frozen dough plants, 2 beverage plants, 2 cheese plants, and 2 meat plants. And owning and operating all of these stores under the Kroger name, under single ownership, gives it that factory to store channel control of more than 40% of the 13,000 private label items that it found that it is on Kroger shelves. So anytime you see something that is Kroger's private label brand, that is all owned and operated under a vertical marketing system with Kroger. They own it all. They're not outsourcing anything. They don't have external companies that are working within their marketing channel. It is all under single ownership by Kroger. And then our next one is an administered vertical marketing system. This is where coordination of the successive stages of production and distribution are through the size and the power of one of the parties. One of the parties is so big and so powerful that they're able to kind of manage it all. Leadership is not assumed through any sort of common ownership or through formal contracts, but through one or perhaps even a few very dominant channel members where they are just so big, they are so powerful, all the other channel members are going to agree to what they do. Now, sometimes they could be seen as kind of bullies, pushing people around. But again, this is open to interpretation. So an example of an administered VMS. So manufacturers of top brands can obtain really strong cooperation and support from their resellers just because they're so big, so strong, and consumers want the products. So Procter & Gamble, P&G, and Apple, they can command unusual cooperation from a lot of their resellers regarding the kind of displays that they're going to have in terms of promotion, the shelf space where their products are going to be, the ideal and usually the most expensive locations in terms of shelf space are like right at eye level for brick and mortar stores, the kind of promotions and the price policies. So they're going to have a lot of cooperation from the retailers in terms of all these different things because they are so big and so powerful. And in turn, really big retailers like the ones that are selling the most in the entire United States and the entire world, retailers like Walmart, like Home Depot, like Kroger, like Walgreens, they can have really strong influences on their channel partners in terms of the manufacturers and the producers that supply the products they sell because they're just so big and so powerful. So that is some examples of administered vertical marketing systems where you've got really big, powerful players that other channel partners are just going to cooperate with. And then we have a contractual vertical marketing system. This consists of independent companies that are at different levels of production and distribution that are going to join together to work through a legally binding contract. And the aim of a contractual vertical marketing system is to obtain more economies or sales impact than each could have alone. So the sum of the parts is greater than the individual parts. That's what they're trying to obtain through a contractual vertical marketing system. And the channel members are all going to coordinate all their activities, and they're even going to manage all the conflict that occurs through these contractual agreements. So the franchise organization is the most common type of a contractual relationship. In a franchise organization, a channel member, which is called a franchisor, links several stages in the production distribution process. So in the US alone, there are over 746,000 different franchise outlets, and that accounts for $425 billion of economic output annually. And franchising really allows entrepreneurs with really good business concepts to grow their business quickly and profitably. And almost every kind of business you can ever imagine has been franchised. We've got motels, we've got restaurants, we've got dental services, handyman services, real estate services, funeral homes, fitness centers, hair salons, nail salons, everything, insurance, everything has been franchised. Anything you could imagine, there's a franchise for it. So some examples of franchises: Jiffy Lube, where you go to get your oil change; Marriott, a hotel; Circle K, which is a gas station convenience store; 7-Eleven, again, a convenience store; McDonald's, fast food restaurant; KFC, fast food chicken; Holiday Inn, another hotel; Planet Fitness, a gym; the UPS store, which is essentially where you would go to ship things; H&R Block for doing your taxes; Great Clips for getting your hair cut. So all sorts of different franchise examples. And let's watch a short video about exactly how franchising works.
The next time you pull up to the drive-thru, you may not know it, but you're part of a business model that's fraught with turmoil. The model's called franchising, and it's spreading. Maybe you've heard the phrase fast food franchise, but do you really know what it means or how it works? You might be surprised by how franchising is affecting your community and the whole economy. We're talking way more than burgers and fries. On one side, the company decides it has a good thing going. It wants to expand, but it doesn't want to run all the new locations, just not familiar enough with those places. It might be short on money for the expansion, and it doesn't want to employ a bunch of local workers. And the company wants the person in charge of each location to be someone special, someone with skin in the game. On the other side is that special person. She wants to start a business. She knows the local market. She has some money to invest or can qualify for a loan. But not enough to buy property, fix it up, buy all her equipment, and maybe not enough for much marketing. She might not know the industry very well and would rather not go it alone. So, the sides make a deal. The company gives its new franchisee what she needs to hit the ground running. She takes the company's training course and pays an initial fee for the franchise. The franchise model depends on a good brand. That means more than anything, consistency. If it's fast food, you'll see the same thing at every drive-thru window. Cashiers wearing the same logo, menus offering the same food, all prepared in the same way. The customers remain loyal to the brand, no matter where they go. What protects the brand is the franchise agreement. The rules for a franchisee might cover everything from operating hours to where she buys supplies. The agreement also requires the franchisee to pay royalties, typically 5 to 10% of the location sales. But there's no guarantee the franchise will flourish. Franchisees go belly up about as often as unfranchised owners. Still, many franchisees manage to hang on. Some do well, even open other locations. The company and its franchisees don't always see eye to eye. The company might impose a higher royalty. It might limit any flexibility in finding supplies and setting prices. The franchisee can start to feel overburdened. But if she doesn't sign on and follow the rules, the company might take over the franchise. She might lose her business. For the company's part, it has reasons to write rules and enforce them. Making all franchisees buy from the same supplier can help bring down costs, and higher fees can fund more advertising. The company also wants its franchisees to follow standard rules. Reloading on the brand is not allowed. Franchise employees, the folks who work behind the cash register, let's say, they're not known for earning big bucks, but economists disagree about why. Some blame the wages and work conditions on the industries where franchising has taken off, where competition is cutthroat and the jobs are low skilled. Other economists blame low wages on the franchise model itself. When a company franchises, they point out, it's adding extra owners. That means more people taking slices of the pie, so there's more pressure to cut costs, like wages. And this leaves less money for the workers. There's another debate about franchising, how it affects the economy. One side claims the model has proven itself more efficient. That can mean lower prices for consumers and more consumption, so more production and more jobs. The other side claims that franchising leaves the workers with less money for buying stuff, and that means less consumption, less production, and fewer jobs. We'll let the experts keep fighting about that. One thing is clear, though. This way of doing business, the franchise model, it's spreading. Gas stations, car dealerships, restaurants, convenience stores, hotels, eyewear retailers, tax services, childcare centers, legal services, news media, janitorial services, home health care, dry cleaners, salons, house cleaning, IT support, carpet cleaning, pet supply, hardware store, tutoring, gyms, real estate.
So you can see a lot of businesses are done via franchises. So that gives you a brief overview kind of what franchising is. So there we go. Okay, so again, franchising is the most common contractually administered marketing system. Okay, now we're going to talk about horizontal marketing systems. So horizontal marketing systems, these are channel arrangements in which two or more companies at a certain level join together to follow a new marketing opportunities. So companies could combine these two different companies, two or more different companies could combine their financial, their production, or their marketing resources to accomplish more than just any one company would be able to do alone. Again, the sum of the parts is greater than the individual pieces. The companies might join forces with competitors. So you could be working alongside your competitor, or they could be a non-competitor. And they could work together on a very temporary basis, just for a short amount of time, or it could be on a permanent basis for a very extended period of time. So it's really going to vary about how a horizontal marketing system is going, what it's actually going to look like. So an example of a horizontal marketing system is Target and Starbucks. So Target routinely partners with a non-competitor of theirs, Starbucks, to place coffee stands in the Target stores. Now, if you've ever been to a Target, you've probably noticed that as soon as you walk in many Targets, most Targets, there is a Starbucks store within the Target. And Starbucks, and you probably thought to yourself, why is there always a Starbucks in there? Maybe you've never thought of it. But the reason why they do this is because Starbucks benefits from Target's heavy store traffic. So you go to Target, you need to pick up a few things. Oh, why not just get a coffee while you're here? So they're going to get more customers just because people are coming into Target to shop. And Target keeps its shoppers hydrated, keeps them caffeinated. They've got their yummy snack and their yummy coffee, and they are ready to shop. So it's mutually beneficial for both Target and for Starbucks. This is an example of a horizontal marketing system. Another example, still using Target as our example, is that Target also partners with CVS Health. So CVS operates CVS pharmacies through a store within a store format with Target. So you've probably noticed that, again, when you're at Target, the pharmacies are technically not Target pharmacies. They're technically CVS pharmacies. So the reason why Target and CVS have done this horizontal marketing system, is because this partnership gives CVS Health more than 1,700 pharmacies at prime locations within Target stores. Again, they are going to reap the benefits of all of that foot traffic that people going to Target have. Target is many people's favorite store. So while you're in there shopping, why not also pick up your prescription and kill some time while you're waiting? And it also frees up Target to really focus on its core competencies of being a retailer as opposed to a pharmacy, while still offering customers the expert pharmacy and healthcare services that they really want. So it's mutually beneficial, again, for both parties. And again, Target and CVS, they're really non-competitors. But let's talk about a horizontal marketing system that actually involves competitors in a certain sense. And horizontal channel arrangements can also work well globally. And we'll talk about airlines. So most of the world's major airlines have joined together in one of three global alliances, which are horizontal marketing systems. There's the Star Alliance, there's SkyTeam, or there is One World. And these global alliances tie the individual airline carriers into these kind of massive worldwide travel networks, and they utilize joint branding, joint marketing. They have co-locations at airports. They can kind of interline the scheduling, especially if you're traveling globally. So it allows for smoother global flight connections, and customers can also share rewards and these membership privileges. And again, a lot of these are considered competitors. So they have all joined together in these global alliances in a horizontal marketing system. And we'll use an example of Star Alliance. So Star Alliance consists of 28 different airlines working together. So you can see, and again, globally. So we've got Turkish Airlines, we've got Lufthansa, we've got United Airlines, we've got Polish Airlines, Croatia Airlines, Air China, Air Canada, Brussels Airlines. Again, all these different global airlines, which are technically competitors, they're all in the airline business. And together, when they join this alliance, this horizontal marketing system, together they can offer more than 18,500 combined daily departures to over 1,300 airports across the world. So again, everyone is benefiting from this. And then we've got our multi-channel distribution systems. So many companies previously really only used a single channel to sell to a single market or to a single market segment. However, this is changing. Today, more and more companies have adopted multi-channel distribution systems. And this is really due, especially because of the advent of digital marketing and e-commerce and the proliferation of customer segments and all these channel possibilities. Almost every large company and many small companies nowadays all distribute through multiple channels as opposed to just one. And what the formal definition of multi-channel distribution system is when a single company sets up two or more distribution channels to reach one or more customer segments. So multi-channel, we're going to use many different channels to reach one or more customer segments. So here's an example of a multi-channel distribution system. So let's use this example in this illustration we've got here. So we've got our producer on top. As you can see, we've got our direct to consumer distribution channel all the way on the left-hand side. We are going to sell directly to consumers using catalogs, using our website, using mobile channels, using telephone, calling. And then the next one over, we're going to be selling indirectly through our retailers. So we're going to go through different stores, maybe Target, Walmart, Walgreens. Again, and then the next one over, we're going to use distributors and dealers. And then in our business segment, we've got direct to the business segment through our sales force. So you can see this is an example of multi-channel distribution. Most businesses, and especially big businesses, are going to use multi-channel distribution systems. There's a lot of different ways, there's a lot of different channels to reach our customers, and most companies are going to utilize this. And the changing channel organization. So changes in technology and the explosive growth of direct and online marketing are having a really big and profound impact on the nature and design of the marketing channels we've been talking about. And one of the big major trends in the last couple of decades is disintermediation. And what disintermediation is, this is essentially, we are going to cut out our middlemen. We are cutting out our distribution channel intermediaries as a producer, and we are going to go directly to our final buyer, or we're going to displace the traditional resellers by some sort of radical new type of intermediary. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. And in many industries, traditional intermediaries are dropping by the wayside. This is the case with these days with online retailers that are really taking business away from our traditional brick and mortar retailers. It's very common now to hear about going out of business or bankruptcies from a lot of these big brick and mortar stores that used to be the juggernauts of their industries decades ago, but they're being left by the wayside. They haven't been able to keep up with technology, with e-commerce. So some very once popular brick and mortar retail stores that have closed pretty much due to disintermediation because of e-commerce online buying. Payless Shoe Source, Borders Books. Again, Borders used to be the second biggest bookseller in the entire United States after Barnes and Nobles, and now they no longer exist. Pier 1 Imports, Circuit City. This was a big electronics store that really rivaled Best Buy. Barney's, Dress Barn, Radio Shack, Sports Authority, Shopko. We actually had a Shopko, which is still an empty building here in Monmouth. And the Monmouth Shopko, along with 139 other locations, closed because the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So we're seeing a lot of these channel intermediaries, these brick and mortar retail stores that are going out of business because of disintermediation. And online music download services, think of iTunes, think of Amazon. They have essentially put traditional music store sellers out of business. This used to be big business. There were big, huge music stores. There was Sam Goody, there was Tower Records, Virgin Megastores, where you would go in and you would buy records, you would buy CDs. These stores no longer exist because of disintermediation. And CDs, they had a peak market share of about 95.7% in terms of the type of music, the type of format that was sold in 2002. And it's only 3% in 2021. Actually, vinyl records now outsell CDs. And the digital market overtook the CD market share for the first time in 2012. So all of these music stores, the Sam Goodies, the Tower Records, they essentially have been obliterated by disintermediation in the changes in technology. And in turn, streaming services, they are now overtaking digital downloads. So think of Spotify, Amazon Prime Music, Apple Music. They are now disintermediating the digital downloading services. Streaming music now accounts for 83% of 2020 music revenue. And this was only 1.2% in 2004. So you've really got to keep up with the technology and what is happening, because if you don't, you may be one of these marketing and distribution intermediaries that is going to be left by the wayside. And channel innovators who find new ways to add value in the channel can displace the traditional resellers, and they can reap the rewards. So for example, Uber and Lyft broke onto the scene within about the last 10, 15 years, and both have really rapidly disintermediated the traditional taxi and the car for hire services by offering customer service experiences at lower fares. Oh, let's talk a little bit more about Uber and Lyft. So it used to be, prior to Uber and Lyft, and again, for those of you who've never used Uber and Lyft, it's an app on your phone. You download it and you would put a credit card on there. And then when you needed a ride home from wherever you are, you would hop on your phone, you would request a ride, and it would have GPS services in there. And it would get someone in their private car who is driving for Uber or Lyft, and they would come pick you up. You'd know the fee. The maps are already in the app, and it's very easy. It's very seamless. Now, prior to them coming on the scene, you used to have to take a taxi, and you'd have to wave down a taxi. You didn't really know the fare. It was just a more cumbersome process. Or if they were picking you up to go to the airport, you'd have to call them beforehand. And taxi cabs were also fairly expensive, and it was very expensive to operate a taxi. So you used to have a special permit in the US that would allow a taxi cab to legally operate. And a lot of major cities in the US would use these taxi cab medallions in their licensing system. So think of like the big US cities, think of New York, Boston, Chicago, Philly, San Francisco. If you wanted to own and operate a taxi, you would have to have a taxi cab medallion. And they were very expensive. So in 2013, the highest price that was ever paid for a taxi cab medallion, again, just to own and operate one, to be able to legally operate a taxi cab, in New York City in 2013, the highest price for a taxi cab medallion was $1 million. But after Uber and Lyft came on the scene, they were essentially rendered completely useless and worthless. So in 2019, there were multiple New York City taxi cab medallions that went up for auction. Again, they went up for auction because no one wanted them anymore. And they tried to sell them, and they only went for about 140K each. So from 1 million 6 years prior to only less than 150K 6 years later. This is a huge disintermediation that Uber and Lyft had, but they're creating more value for final consumers. So again, the taxi cab drivers and taxi cab operators were completely displaced these traditional channel partners. And traditional intermediaries must continue to innovate to avoid being swept aside. You need to keep up with the changing marketplace, with the changing technology, with changing consumer taste and preferences. For example, Toys R Us, they pioneered the superstore format that really made it the go-to place for buying toys and baby products. I actually remember Toys R Us. I went to a Toys R Us as a kid, and I remember it was magical. Love going to Toys R Us. And it was innovative for its time, and it drove all these small independent toy stores out of business, but it created more value for the customers. So they liked going to Toys R Us in the 80s, in the 90s. But Toys R Us, although it was briefly very successful, they failed to adapt to major shifts in toy sales. The first being towards big discounters like Walmart and Target, and then towards online merchants like Amazon, like with e-commerce. And Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy in 2018, and they closed their last stores in 2021. So again, you need to keep up. You need to continue to be innovative and keep up with what is happening with the market, or you're going to no longer cease to exist, and you're going to be swept aside with disintermediation. And product and service producers have to develop new channel opportunities to remain competitive. We've got to think of all the new channels that are out there, like internet, like mobile, like other direct channels. However, developing these new channels often brings a company into direct competition with their established channels that they already have. And this could, and sometimes does, very much result in conflict. So companies often have to look for ways to make going direct using these new channels advantageous for the entire channel. So, for example, Harley Davidson, very well-known motorcycle manufacturer and kind of lifestyle. Harley Davidson, they route all of their online sales through their independent dealers. So when you go online and you are going to do an order from Harley Davidson on their website, they actually make you, as a customer, select a specific Harley dealership. So you have to go through the brick and mortar Harley Davidson dealership. This keeps the local dealer at the center of the customer experience and really minimizes that channel conflict that could occur. And whether the items are shipped by Harley themselves, shipped by the store, or they're actually picked up physically within the brick and mortar dealership by the customer, the dealer is going to receive the credit for the sale. And thus, Harley's direct and mobile marketing benefits both the company and their dealers and who are their channel partners. So it's advantageous for everyone. Now let's talk about channel design decisions. So for maximum effectiveness, channel analysis and decision making should be very purposeful and it should be very strategic. So before we go into anything, we've got to think about, what do we want our channel to look like? Who do we want our partners to be? So first, we've got to think strategically, and we should design effective marketing channels by looking at what our customer needs and wants are, setting up our channel objectives, our goals, identifying our channel alternatives, and then evaluating those alternatives to come to the best decision. So marketing channels are part of that overall customer value delivery network, and each channel member should be adding value for the customer. So thus, designing the marketing channel starts with finding out exactly what target consumers want from that channel. What do our target consumers want? What is going to make them happy? What is going to create value for them? So do they want to buy nearby, or do they want a brick and mortar retail store that is within 5 miles from them? Or are they willing to travel to a more centralized location? Are they willing to travel like 50 miles? Do they want to buy in person? Do they want to buy over the phone? Do they want to buy online? Do the consumers want a lot of additional add-on services? Like, do they want delivery? Do they want installation? Do they want repairs? Do they want warranty? Or do they not care about those and they don't want them, they don't need them, or maybe they're going to obtain them elsewhere? We've got to think about, what our customers need and want when they're buying for us, when we're designing our channels. And the faster the delivery and the greater the assortment and variety that we provide, and the more add-on services we provide, the greater our channel service level is going to be. However, this may not be possible, it may not be practical, or it may not even be desired by either us or the consumers. And so we as a company need to balance our customer needs against the feasibility and the cost of meeting these needs. And also, we've got to think about, what are our customers willing to pay? Does this make sense based on their price preferences? And we've got to identify the major channel alternatives in terms of the different types of intermediaries, the number of intermediaries that we want, and the responsibilities and roles of each channel member. So most companies face many different channel member choices. So let's talk about computer manufacturer Dell. So Dell initially only sold directly to final consumers and business buyers through phone and online marketing channels. Only direct. They did not work through any sort of intermediaries. They didn't work through wholesalers. They didn't work through retailers, only direct to consumer or direct to business. They also sold to large corporate or institutional or government buyers using a direct sales force. However, to reach more consumers and to match their competitors like Samsung and Apple, Dell now also sells indirectly through retailers like Best Buy, like Staples and Walmart. So they have had to expand and to choose different types of intermediaries. And using many types of resellers in a channel provides both benefits and drawbacks. By selling through retailers or resellers or direct marketing channels, obviously we're going to reach more buyers, and we're going to reach a lot of different kinds of buyers than we would by only selling through one single type of channel. However, the more complexity we get, the more difficult it comes to managing and controlling. In addition, the direct and indirect channels kind of compete with each other. So there could be a little bit of cannibalization. A lot of times they're competing for the same customer, causing potential conflict. And companies also have to determine the number of channel members to use at each level and the intensity of distribution. So let's talk about the 3 strategies that we have available in terms of the number and intensity of distribution. So we've got intensive distribution, we've got exclusive distribution, and we've got selective distribution. So let's go through what each of these mean. So intensive distribution. This is stocking the product in as many outlets as possible. We are going to be intense and we are going to be everywhere. The producers of convenience products, or really like common raw material, usually are going to be using intensive distribution. We want products to be available when and where consumers want them. We are going to be everywhere. We're going to be intense. So, for example, toothpaste, candy, soda pop, these are sold at millions of outlets to provide maximum brand exposure and consumer convenience. They are going to be in every convenience store, every Walmart, every Target, anywhere you go. This is intensive distribution. Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Kimberly-Clark, they distribute their products using intensive distribution. They want to be everywhere. And then we've got exclusive distribution. This is where we're going to go on the other end of the spectrum. This is giving only a limited number of dealers the exclusive right to distribute our company's products in their territories. This is usually the exclusive distribution is usually the distribution strategy of very high-end luxury brands that are really trying to capitalize on scarcity, where it's not available to most people. You really have to try to get it. They're trying to capitalize on that scarcity. So Breitling watches, they position themselves as the instruments for professionals, very high-end watches. Their selling price starts at like $5,000 for a watch. It goes all the way up to $100,000 for a watch. And they are only sold by a few authorized dealers in any given geographic market. This is exclusive distribution. Only a few very chosen retailers, resellers, dealers are going to be able to sell. And Breitling only sells in the Chicagoland area. They only sell through one jeweler in Chicago and only 6 total in our fine state of Illinois. So this is an example of exclusive distribution. Only a few very select intermediaries can sell. And then we've got selective distribution. This is kind of in the middle. This is where we're going to use more than one, but fewer than all of the intermediaries that are willing to carry a company's product. So kind of in the middle. Most consumer electronics that you buy, furniture, home appliances, are really distributed in this manner. So still, outdoor power equipment. They make things like chainsaws, blowers, hedge trimmers. They do not sell their products through mass merchandisers. They don't sell them through Lowe's, through Home Depot, through Sears. Instead, they sell them through a select core of independent hardware lawn and garden dealers. they use a selective distribution. Again, kind of somewhere in the middle between exclusive and intensive. So by using this selective distribution, still can really develop a really good working relationship with those dealers and retailers that they are using, and they're going to expect a better than average selling effort. And selective distribution also enhances Still's brand image and also allows it for higher markups in the price. Now, we're going to talk about responsibilities of channel members. So producer and intermediaries have to agree on the terms and responsibilities of all the channel members. This is really important. We've got to agree on the price policies. We've got to agree on the conditions of sale. The territory rights. Are there certain geographic locations where you cannot operate in, or I can't steal someone else's customers? Are there specific services that should be performed by each party? And the producer should also establish a list price and a fair set of discounts for the intermediaries within that channel. It must define each channel member's territory, and it's got to be careful about where it places any sort of new resellers. And that is where we're going to end for chapter 10, part 2. We will continue with part 3 very soon. Thank you.